to begin.
You're listening to Magrito Podcast Network, celebrating the culture of Chicanos and Latinos one story and voice at a time. Listen to more Magrito Podcast Network shows over at magrito.net.
You're listening to KQBHLP, Los Angeles, California, 101.5 FM, a community service of the Boyle Heights Arts Conservatory, broadcasting live on your FM dial and streaming on kqbhla.com. You're listening to The Social Primate with your host, Eddie Aguirre, and today joining me is the almighty Alexandro Zamora.
What's up?
What's up, man? Thank you for showing up.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is great.
Showing up like if you were going to like flake on me or something, you know?
Yeah, I thought about it.
Nah, dude, thank you so much for making the time to come out here on this summer night in Boyle Heights. Mm-hmm. And we were just talking, you know, like one of the first times that I got the opportunity to meet you was through Fotolandia, which was just, like 2-3 months ago at this point?
Yeah, in April, yeah.
In April, yeah. And I was just mentioning to you that this event, it was something that I personally haven't really seen in Southeast Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And knowing that it was happening just like a mile away from my house, I was like, whoa. This is awesome.
Yeah, hell yeah.
You know, and I want to know what was the idea behind this, or what led up to this idea based on your experiences. You know, you're the photographer, you're a co-founder of Fotolandia. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So it actually started with this side business I run called Fotolab Workshops. Mm-hmm. I run it with my friend Angelica, and we've been doing that for about 3 years. It's a monthly free studio photography workshop series where we provide models and a space to shoot and like backdrops, lights, all that stuff. And then we will do a quick little like kind of educational, like this is what the light is, this is how you do this is how you do that. And then get everyone hands-on as fast as possible because I know that's always the funnest part of any workshop. So we did that for 3 years, and eventually, I ended up applying for this art grant through the California Arts Council to put on some sort of event. Mm-hmm. The grant, you had to apply, you had to have an event to pitch and all that. And so somehow I just popped in my head to do like, I'll do a big festival. I'll do like Fotolab, but big. And over 3 days for some reason.
For real,
because I really wanted to put myself on, torture myself. So, but yeah, so I applied and I won the grant, and they gave me money to put on this festival, mm-hmm. which I wanted to make sure that we did something fun, engaging, educational, but also like completely free.
Yeah.
So like the whole point of this project, the Fotolandia project, was to kind of turn the idea of festivals like on their head. Mm-hmm. And so essentially we were almost like paying people to come have fun. Yeah. And so like we had free food, we had free entertainment, free workshops, just everything we could provide to people for a full day, we absolutely did. And I think it turned out really well. I had an amazing time. I know a lot of people had a great time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really cool.
No, definitely. You know, again, I showed up and I was amazed at what was going on. You know, like a lot of the times, these resources or these workshops in general, they're out of our price range for the most part. You know, and sometimes it's really hard as starting up as a creative or just some sort of like entrepreneur. You want to have access to resources, but you're not there yet,
right?
And it feels out of reach sometimes. You know, but you come in and help bring these events local areas, and it gives it breaks down that illusion that's far away, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that was also like a big thing for me was like, so I've been doing photography for around 16 years, mm-hmm. including like traditional academic, like studying it in school and paying for workshops and just like trying to learn as much as I can, teaching myself a lot about studio lighting. Yeah. And so I know exactly how expensive it is and how mm-hmm. difficult it is to actually even get your hands on like equipment and like knowing how to direct a model and all this stuff. So I wanted to take away as many barriers as possible to let people like experience this mm-hmm. and to practice and try new things, because that's the other thing is like when we don't have experience with something, we don't want to like mess it up or like waste a day or whatever.
Exactly.
You know? So I want the fun aspect of it is also super important for me. Mm-hmm. Just to get people engaged and doing their thing.
You know, that's a good way to put it, because a lot of the times our time is spent on like, you know, being rushed through the day, like getting stuff done, mm-hmm. that we kind of let that just kind of slip through our fingers, that we want want results really quick, right? So then when it's really about creating and stuff, you got to realize that takes time and effort and like this other type of patience that you didn't know of, to kind of try to excel at it. Not even just excel, it's more like just take it upon it to create.
Yeah, exactly. And especially in the area that we did it in, with Southeast Los Angeles. So we were hosted by Art Space Huntington Park, and they were super, super generous, super wonderful to work with. Shout out to Rosario. And like, that area has just been historically overlooked, and just like food desert, art desert, there's just never anything for people to come out and enjoy, and just for the sake of it, or at least there wasn't. There's a lot more now, which is awesome and fantastic. But yeah, so it was also super important that in my talks with like local community members, what kept coming up was that people notice when companies will come or people will come and start something in their area and then take it away as soon as it blows up or whatever, right? Like extractive practices. And so I wanted to make sure that that could never happen with Fotolandia. So I made SELA part of the name of Fotolandia. It's officially called Fotolandia, SELA's Photography Festival. And so in that way, I want to like just ensure that, I mean, even if we expand somehow or some way someday, that this will always be here for SELA. And like, that was, again, just another super important thing.
Now, when you first started this, like, how did you navigate through these obstacles that a lot of us, or a lot of people in your starting position were? Like, you're scarce in resources, you might be limited in things, and like, what did you do to kind of help navigate this?
I guess I did a lot of just DIY self-taught work. I would ask anyone I could for advice and for technique stuff. But again, everyone tends to be, or at least the people that I came up with, tend to be very protective of their
gatekeeping.
Art. Yeah, very gatekeepy, and like especially with technique stuff, photography-wise. And so that always really bugged me because I was like, I mean, you're literally just putting a light right here. Like I can see what you're doing. It's not like a huge secret, but for some people, they treat it like it is. And so. I just, I tried to take everything I know and just give it away for free as often as possible. Because when I was coming up, I couldn't find that. I could never find free work. And, YouTube wasn't what it is today. I'm a little older.
University of YouTube.
Exactly. Yeah. And even then, like, when you go on YouTube, the videos are all they're catered to the YouTube algorithm. They're not there to educate you. They're there to get views.
Right.
And so that really bugs me too. And so that's why I'm always like, I just want to get away from the capitalistic side of it and just get back to not even education, but just like experience. Or just giving the people the ability to experiment, because, again, going back to the whole conversation of us just rushing through the day, like we've been kind of like, conditioned to be just about being in the system, right? But we don't have time for experimentation, and experimentation comes in all forms of creative ways a lot of the time. It doesn't even have to be art or like photography. It could be whatever it is, dancing, for all you care. Like, but it's been ingrained in us at this point that we're conditioned that is, we shouldn't experiment anymore, right? Like this whole time during school, you're taught like, follow the system, follow these rules, follow these procedures, but it's never like, let me give you just free reign to kind of just figure out what you want to do, Yeah, just have fun with it.
Just have fun with it, exactly. Yeah, fun is like the biggest aspect of just human nature in a sense,
Yeah, and they really strip that away from us in school and work and everything. It's like you shouldn't be, and I'm using quotes here, wasting time experimenting or having fun or trying new things. Like everything should be perfect at first, or if not, throw it away and move on.
And that's the downside. Again, I forgot where I read this or I heard this, but a lot of our creativity kind of gets like stomped out by the early age of, I think before we're like 10 or something, we're already getting conditioned to like, if we're not good at this art, then it's not for us. And that's the worst thing you can do to yourself, because you're removing yourself because you think you're not good enough. But it's like your skills don't have to be in hand drawing or life drawing. They could be photography. Just give the kids or just people the ability to experiment.
Yeah, exactly. Put it in their hands. Let people get a hold on it. And see what they can do.
When I started college, I was like, I'm gonna go into photography. Like I was gonna go into what is it called? Just black and white photography.
Nice.
You know, I didn't have any resources. I just signed up to this class, and I never had photography class like in high school or in middle school. You know, other communities, you know, that are more like, you know, affluent. Mm-hmm. You see that they have access to this early on. Mm-hmm. But you know, me, 18, 19 years old, I'm like, oh, I've never taken a photography class. I'm barely learning what ISO means. Mm-hmm. Like, it's kind of scary, you know. And you see that your skill is not up to par to what other people are doing, and you're like, I'm out, you know, I'll drop this class. Yeah. You know, at least for me, that was just my experience. I know other people, they're like, nah, you know, you push through it. But for me, it was very, you know, it's just a little disheartening at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, no, I 100% agree. Like, it's so intimidating, and especially because photography is so technical. Mm-hmm. Like, if you don't know how to set settings, you're not going to get a picture at all, which is kind of scary.
Right.
Yeah, and it's so I totally understand that, and I was in the same place where it was just always felt like I was trying to reach another level that I just couldn't quite get to. And thankfully, I actually didn't do photography from a lot of high school. Mm-hmm. And then in college, I studied music. I studied trombone performance for about a year, and then switched to photography because music started to feel like work. And I loved playing live, so I didn't want it to turn into something that I hated. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, what else can I do? And then I moved to photography, and I had that kind of feeling too, where I was like, oh, like I didn't start at the beginning of freshman year, so now I'm behind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then look at what everyone else has already done and doing and developing. And at the same time, I also felt like, yeah, but I can do that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, there's that. I'm gonna butcher the saying, but something about like comparison is like it's bad to compare yourself, right? Like,
absolutely.
You're not gonna be at the same level. You're gonna make it to your own level. You know, like recently, like I've been learning. Up until this day, I like to learn new skills. Like I took it upon myself to learn how to animate. So I'm learning this new software. You know, starting from scratch, it feels overwhelming. Like I remember these emotions when I first started learning graphic design. I was like, oh my God, I don't know Photoshop. This looks overwhelming. Like all this basic stuff that now seems like easy. Right. But again, it's that moment you gotta remember that everything starts off feeling uncomfortable. You know, and you just gotta chip away at it. Just I'm do it yourself. I'm just going on YouTube, watching a bunch of videos, playing around, and then slowly you're having fun. You know, and that immediately starts. It's a badass experience.
It turns everything around. Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah. So I mean that's where I'm currently in the process of, and that's something that I hope people take out of conversations like this sometimes. That you know, you have to just be open to experiment. You know. Side note, I was taking a shower a couple of days ago, and I was like, yo, I feel like painting. I feel like painting.
Yeah. That's sweet.
I'm not a painter, but I felt like, you know what? I want to paint my environment, like even if it's just my outside of like my house. Yeah. Like why not?
Why not?
You know? So I'm gonna look into getting some materials in.
That's sick. Yeah, that's really great.
Yeah.
And also, my side note, I'm terrible at having fun with art. Like I guess I do it for others much easier than I do it for myself, because I have the same thing where it's like, man, I kind of feel like painting, and then like, nah, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna. Yeah. And I mean, I think it should be a healthy thing. Kind of like when your body wants to work out, you know, like you know when your body already needs to move. Because I've been slouching for the last couple months because I had a baby and I just been trying to sleep. Like that's my biggest thing. But now my body's telling me like, no, you gotta get up and you gotta move. You gotta do stuff. Yeah. And similar, that's the same feeling I get when I have like a creative, I don't know, energy just kind of in me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you got to act on it. You got to act on it and catch it.
Yeah.
And then grow from there.
Exactly. So now for you, with this experience, you know, you like you mentioned, you wanted to be able to provide this to people just in general. And we were briefly mentioning it before the show, like the whole thing about value. Like, for a big question on my end for a long time was like, how do you create value? How do you give value to people, right? Because when you're trying to become like, I guess, a business owner, you're trying to become some sort of venture, they tell you like, you got to find your target audience, you got to find the niche, you know, you got to do all these things that are going to help you build a community through the value you're providing. And you're like, how do I provide value if it's for free? Like, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
And then you come to these moments in your life where you're like, I know exactly what I got to do. You came and you brought these resources to people, right? And like, how was that for you? And like, Yeah, man.
Yeah, honestly, there's three. I feel like there's three things that came out of the festival after all the things that we did, and it wasn't just me. It was I had a whole team with me, and including Angelica and Rosario, and I want to make sure that they get their props because they were freaking amazing. I literally would have been impossible without them. So and Aleja, but yes, so. I think for value, when it comes to value, it is an ugly word for me because it feels like you're talking about money.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's not at all what we were doing. Like, by design, not making money through Fotolandia, through this huge 3-day festival with 10 bands, food, music, all that stuff. And we never intended to make money off of it. So the value that we got out of it or that we brought to the community was like, the opportunity to build something new. And there's 3 stories that I like to tell, or like 3 things that happened that really made me feel like, wow, I think I actually created something special. And one is there's a group of 4 attendants who met on Friday and then became like best friends by the end of Sunday night.
Hey.
Yeah, and then to this day they're still friends, and they just did an art show together. And I think it's so beautiful and so cool that they like found their group, they found each other. And then the second thing is we had a gallery, an indoor gallery, and for a lot of the photographers from the area, this was the first time they've ever shown work.
Yes.
And so they were like so stoked. It was so cool. They brought their families and they brought their friends, and we even had one person come multiple times on different days with different family members to be like, look.
That's cool.
It was so sick. Yeah, it was amazing. It was so rewarding to see that. And I forgot the third one.
No, wait, I mean, just to jump on that second point, or the second story that you had, I forgot. I don't want to say I forgot their name. I want to say their name was Esteban. He was one of the photographers at Fotolandia.
Yeah, that's right.
And same thing. I showed up. I went inside the gallery. Was just taking a look at everything, and I had met him outside. And I actually told this story in Rosario's episode with Artspace a couple of weeks ago. But he started telling me like, hey, this is my first time that my photos are being showcased in a gallery. And just the look on his face, like, it lit up like, this is cool. I'm being validated and represented. And I was like, yo, this is what it's about.
That's
like,
right.
This is what you're supposed to be doing, like, and this is how we're going to continue to inspire people to really change, because change doesn't come just from reading Instagram posts and like just consuming stuff online all the time. A lot of the times you have to meet with people and really feel their vibes, and for you to like pick up on the energy that's being released, built.
Yes, and you just said the perfect thing. There's like you can't just consume to create these kinds of things, to grow and all this. You have to participate. You have to like show up and take part. Like if they didn't apply, like, and we had like a full blown application process with like you had to answer questions and all this stuff, and people did it, and they did it really well, and they were excited. And I think that like initiative is so important when you're trying to make a big difference.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Now, you guys had 3 days, but I think the first day was specifically for the people showcasing in the event, right? The
first day was, yes. We had, so the way it worked was because we were providing so much for free, we had to limit the tickets to 40 participants on Saturday. So we had 40 people do 6 workshops on Saturday. And then, but on Friday, we had those 40 people and then everyone in the gallery who was showing work in the gallery.
Okay.
So it was about 100 people total. And that was on Friday night, so it was like a mixer party kind of thing. Yeah. And then Saturday was all workshops, and then Sunday we had an artist panel with some really great local artists who talked about the price of talent. That was the theme of the talk, and it was enlightening and wonderful and really cool.
Now, what are your guys' plans? I mean, do you think you're doing that like a yearly thing if it's allowed? Like,
I mean, yeah, we would love to do it every year. that is definitely on the table. We're figuring it out.
Yeah, right.
Because it was a huge undertaking, and I loved it. Like I love being that busy. I'm like that kind of person. But yeah, I mean, we're just taking it one day at a time right now. The funding is definitely something we're considering. But I mean, overall, like reception wise and just like actually putting the event on, we loved it, and we would be happy to do it every single year.
You know, and it's cool, and I think it's another important thing that I think, I don't know, maybe there needs to be some workshop or some sort of information on it, but just being able to put these events together, you know, like for a long time when I was young, I'd be like, you know, I could put an event together, I'll get a couple of bands, they'll show up, and then people will come. You know, that's what you think was just going to happen, but there's logistics, there's all this other stuff, right, that we don't know about, and then it becomes about like also the funding. Right. Like, you know, now you got to go through a whole application process to try to just get some money, you know, some of that money used to kind of build something. And that's also intimidating to people, especially when there's that, Rosario made a good point of it. It's like a knowledge pipeline of it. Like, you know, people don't know how to get to where they want to based on the information that I guess the information is there, but a lot of the times it's hard for us to kind of just pinpoint where to begin it.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think if it weren't for Rosario, I would have never even known about this opportunity to get this funding for this grant. She went out of her way to have the people who put it on, one of the main women to put it on, Yvonne, to come out to ArtSpace HP and like put on a Q&A, like a personal Q&A for anyone who wanted to come and apply. And she made it, like, she answered all of our questions. She made it very, very approachable. Like, I was so intimidated thinking about applying for a grant. And having the person there who was helping make decisions and being like, no, it's not that hard. Like, do it like this, do this. And, like, it just made a world of difference, and it just completely inspired me and opened my mind. And I was like, I think I can do this. Like, I'm gonna apply. Like, because of course, up to that point, I was like, I don't know, we'll see. But
yeah, that's true. You know, I've had opportunities where they're like, hey, sign up for something, and you go into the guidelines or the submission stuff, and you're like, nah, I'm okay. Next year, I'll do it next year.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I can definitely relate to that. But no, again, it's badass that there's people out there putting these resources in the people's hands at this point. You know, Southeast LA, other areas, East LA, like, we've just been limited so much over the last couple of years that I think, you know, it's finally the time for us to like build together, like rise together. And again, not gatekeep, because when you start gatekeeping, again, you're already kind of making yourself like, I'm better than you. You know, I don't want you to be at this level. Right. And that's not what we want. You know, there's enough to go around for everybody.
Yeah, and especially with art stuff, it's like, I feel like for me, I don't gatekeep because I believe like everyone should have the same access to the same resources, the same knowledge, and then let the talent speak for itself.
Yeah.
Like that lack of technical know-how shouldn't be what's making someone's work stronger or weaker or anything like that. It should just come down to talent. And we live in a world where that is very much not the case by design. Yeah. And so, I think that's
I mean, it's now outside of Fotolandia, you say you have the workshops that you do. Like I've noticed that you put like tutorials, kind of like just small breakdowns of how people can get results in terms of like photography. Yeah. Again, that's as you know, I've paid for headshots before, and you know, because they're worth it. You know, there's obviously a certain price range. Right. But at the end of the day, you're like, okay, maybe I have my own phone. Let me take a few headshots. You know. But you know, just little skills like this kind of help you boost your brand, boost yourself up, and like, you know, it elevates your presence online as well. You know.
Yeah. Thank you. I just started doing that. Just making these like tiny, less than a minute tutorials. Trying to like make them funny and interesting.
With your dog?
Yeah, with my dog. Yeah, she's a star. And Chi-Chi. And and it's fun. Like I actually really enjoy making them. At first I was kind of scared, but I enjoy making them, and people seem to enjoy them. And most importantly, it's getting out information quickly and in a way that people want to watch. Because I have no idea how the algorithm works, so I'm not trying to game it. I'm not trying to like, okay, they have to stay here for this long so that I can get. Well, I don't know. I don't know how it works. Right.
Yeah, like the retention, because now Instagram tells you like, oh, people watch for 13 seconds, and you're like, oh, why didn't they watch the whole minute?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like I put so much work in it. No, but yeah, and so yeah, that's actually something I would love to emphasize is that like while Fotolandia is a once a year project, we also do Fotolab throughout the year, and that is like I was saying, it's basically just Fotolandia mini.
Yeah.
And so so we're always encouraging people to go to our Instagram to learn new techniques and check out our like monthly workshops, which we have one coming up on July 19th with Intersect Crenshaw. And I think it's just it's a lot of fun and hard work and exciting, and you get to meet a lot of cool people.
Yeah, no, definitely, especially in the photography line of work. Like you're just constantly just going through the people that you're meeting. Now, you mentioned earlier that you when you first started into photography, you were in end of high school, beginning of college or something? Yeah,
like towards the end of freshman year.
End of freshman year. Okay. Now, what kind of led to that change for you? Like, what was that shift like?
Yeah, it was definitely something. I very much like I was saying, I was studying music and I love playing music, especially playing like big band jazz. But nice. When you're studying music and you talk to your professors and you're trying to figure out your roadmap, and when everyone is telling you, well, you should really have a backup plan because you're not going to make enough money. You're just not. You're just not. And they are all the highest level professionals. They literally play with, record and play with the big names and all that. And they get paid like $300 a session. And it's just not enough. And so that, and combined with the fact that we live in a world where I have to consider that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, what else can I do that I love, that I'm good at? And because that's always been important to me, is to focus on the things that I actually enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Because I am very much privileged enough to be able to do that. And so that led me to photography and through that, even like shifting to photography, getting into it, like learning, being able to teach myself and learn on my own really made me kind of think like, okay, I have all of this access now. What am I doing with this? Like, why is it just me? Why am I holding on to this for myself? Like, there's no reason, right? Yeah. And so when I switched over to photography, it started off with me just wanting to take pretty pictures.
Yeah.
And now it's very much like I just want to give away information as much as I can. And that's actually what I tell Rosario all the time is like, I literally just wanted to take pretty pictures. How did this happen? Like, who let this happen? Yeah. Why am I in charge of things? I don't understand. But yeah, so I started taking classes and really enjoyed it, and my professors would comment on my work, and so I was like, okay, I think this is a good path for me.
Did you ever at some point have any like setbacks in terms of like, I mean, I'm sure, in any process you start second guessing what you're doing again, like, was there anything like at that point kind of like maybe made you stop and like, maybe I should rethink this? And
oh my God, yeah, all the time, constantly, to this day. Okay, I lied a little bit. My professors did not comment on my work positively. You know what? And my portfolio has always been kind of, I don't know. It's I've never really gotten like good reviews from professors and higher ups. And I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Maybe racism. I don't know. But for whatever it was, oh no, I forgot the question.
Yeah, no. In terms of like just setbacks and stuff.
Right, setbacks. Like, yeah. So it was again a lot of like no's and a lot of like it isn't good enough.
Yeah.
And a lot of like, well, what's the point? Like, I get that a lot with my work, and I get it, kind of. Like, I do a lot of portraiture, and for me, it means a lot to be able to connect with someone and personally and show, like, their humanity through an image. But I can also see how it could look one note and sort of like what's the point? Like, you're not changing the world, you're not making social commentary, you're just taking pretty pictures. That's the criticism that I give myself all the time. But it's also the one that's been developed from, years and years of critiques and working with, big names and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. when I started graphic design too, I started like 2011 or something. You know, for the first couple of years, people just look at your work and they're just like look away and they're like, please just tell me, give me some feedback. Let me at least tell me where I can work on things. You know,
exactly.
And a lot of times it's just kind of like dry. Nah, you're not gonna make it. Do something else. It's like that's not what you want to hear. You know.
No.
And again, it's just going back into that culture of like a lot of people tend to like desynthesize just the aspects of creatives or just creativity in general. Like it's not important, but at the end of the day, like everything we see around us, it's being represented in one way or another through some sort, either branding or like social media posts, like photos. Like we're at the end of the day, we're still consumers of what people are creating, right? And it's harder at first, you know, when you have nobody to kind of like be on your side.
Yeah.
But eventually, you know, again, you study, you do your own research, you kind of keep chipping away at that craft, and you get to a point where you can make the decisions now. Like, I know all of this. Let me pass it on.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I still take a lot of like pretty portraits, but now I can also teach people how to do that, and then let them do whatever they want.
Yeah.
With that lighting scheme, with the settings, with whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So I've learned to like just accept that like this is where my head's at, and I want to see what y'all can do.
You know, I mean, but that's also a really good point of like just how mature you can grow through your whole process. You know, because again, when I started off just design or just, you know, the podcast, being straight honest, like it was more about let me get my word out, you know, like let me do this. Yeah, sure, I did want to represent people, but at the end of the day, it's still something that I'm producing, right? Like let me get it out there, let me get those views, you know. But eventually you start going through these conversations, at least in the podcast world, right? Going through these conversations, you're meeting people, you start realizing that these people are bringing value to the community. Oh man, let me do some self-reflection now. What am I doing with this platform? Like, and you start evolving it, you know, you start creating it and molding it till it becomes something that shows a maturity from just being as like a selfish thing to more of a collective, let me see what I can do thing. I'm still not doing anything, I'm just having a conversation with you, you know. But what I'm trying to say is like you're giving these resources for people to take and make it their own knowledge and figure out how they're going to use it in the world. Same thing with this conversation. Somebody picks this up and they're like, where has this conversation been my whole life? And now they're going to do photography, they're going to do whatever it is that is going to drive them to where they need to be, you know. And that is, there's no value. I mean, there is value in that, but it's like priceless in a sense, right?
Right, exactly. No, the priceless value.
Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. Like, I really hope that's because again, I get in my head and I'm like, I don't know, like I feel like I haven't really said anything. But I do. I mean, I want to help people and inspire people, and like, if telling my story can do that in a little bit way, that's cool. That's great.
Yeah. No, it's like anything, you know, sometimes you hear some random stuff and you're like, wait, that makes a connection, and boom, you're off like to a new path of consciousness. And you're like, dang, okay, cool.
Okay.
But going back a little bit to Fotolandia now. A huge undertaking for 3 days, first and foremost. So during this whole process, like what's going on through your head? Like what's the biggest thing that's like eating away at your mind while you're putting this together?
I think for sure what kept coming up was, I hope people show up.
Yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah. I really hope people show up, and I really hope that it's fun.
Yeah.
And that it looks okay, that it looks professional, because this is the first time I've ever done anything on this scale. Like we had like a full-blown music stage. I mean, huge stage, bigger than I expected, honestly. But it looked cool. And we had multiple photography setups, sort of makeshift studios outside, which, you know, started off great, and then halfway through the day, the wind picked up, and all the lights started falling, and all this stuff. Yeah, so we had to pivot. And that's a lot of what the whole experience was me hoping for something turning slightly different, and then think, okay, let's pivot. Let's move this way now. Let's adapt. Yes, exactly. So yeah, the whole time I was terrified that even during it, that no one would show up.
Yeah.
Even when there were people all around me, I was still like, yeah, but is anyone having fun?
Is everybody having fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just one of those things that's gonna. I mean, that is a very like valid thing to feel too. You know, you're putting all this effort to this thing, and like you're hoping that there's enough eyes to like show up.
Yeah.
But no, it's cool. You know, when people do show up, you start seeing like, oh man, people did want this. You know?
Yeah. Well, and to show up and then to come back again. Like, right. And then like for people that you didn't even know existed that like were now coming in like, oh yeah, we heard about it. Like our friends told us about it. And it's like, their friends told you about it? It was like literally been one day. Like that's incredible. Yeah. And so, so it's a lot of like just freaking myself out, honestly.
I mean, you guys did a fantastic job. I mean, the branding was on point. Like, you know, the flyers you guys were posting on social media, like,
thank you,
on point. And again, that's another thing that you gotta worry about. Like, now you gotta find, you know, a way to kind of like promote this, and it's just a lot of little things just to make one end product,
dude. And like, you don't even know, like, we literally had to hire a PR team for all the marketing stuff, all the posts and all that. That's why I was just shouting out Aleja, because she absolutely destroyed it. Like she had us on like a content calendar and like all these little business points. Yeah, she was reaching out to companies for support and all that. She got Coco Vita to come give out free cocoa water.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and that was like very last second, so that was super cool. But yeah, it's literally its own job. And I would not have been able to do it myself. I tried to do it. For a few months we were like, yeah, we can do it. We can put out posts and stuff. But nah, not the way she did it. And like, not when you're trained to do that kind of stuff. It's its own thing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times most people's projects are just one person, you know, like one person, and you have to become everything on this, whatever you're doing, you know. But in this case, the good thing is that you had people around you. And, you know, and that's one thing that I noticed when I was myself at Fotolandia. I was like, there was a bunch of people that I already met through the podcast that were in the place, and then I met some new people just like yourself.
Nice.
So it's like, this is cool, you know. Everybody's networking. Everybody's now I know that he does that, and then again, when you need them, they're just like a phone or a message away, and be like, hey,
exactly,
what can we do to collaborate?
Exactly. Yeah. There were so many connections being made, and in such beautiful, natural ways. Like, it really touched my heart.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, you said it was. How did this idea come up? I know it was you and Angelica, right?
Yes.
Like, is this something you guys talked about? Like, you guys just. Yeah, tell me a little about that process. Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not really sure where it came from.
Yeah.
Because we were just doing Fotolab, and you know, it's the same workshop or similar workshops every month. And then this grant came along, and I guess when I saw in the grant that they wanted you to propose some sort of event or just sort of a community gathering type of thing, the first thing that came to my head was like a festival. A big photography festival that has music, live music. That's a thing, right? Yeah. People do that. And I was completely convinced that I had either been to one or seen one or something. And the more I was describing it to people, the more people were like, I've never heard of this. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, okay, well, then let's just try it. Let's just do it ourselves. Like, it made it harder because we didn't have anything to reference.
Yeah.
But it really just came out of wanting to do something big and kind of special. And I don't know why that's where my brain went, but sure enough, yeah.
Definitely special. Again, just going back to a little history of myself in Southeast LA, like, you don't have that, you know. Anybody familiar with the area, again, there's a bunch of different things that already happen, habits, you know, lifestyles that people have in these communities that it's really hard for you to kind of see like out of that light, you know, up until you start having these moments or these events kind of come into your neighborhood, and it really starts like shifting the way that you see your community.
Absolutely.
Like, instead of it being like, oh man, I'm back in this, you know, sad looking place with liquor stores everywhere, now you're excited to be like, you know what, that wall, maybe I can get the city to draw a mural on it.
Absolutely.
Or whatever it is, you know, but now you're inspired to bring some sort of art into your space.
Yes, and you don't have to travel for it.
Yeah,
it's here.
There you go.
Yeah, it's for you. It's for us. It's here, and it's not going anywhere. Like, that's such an important thing that kept coming up. Was like everyone was so happy that they didn't have to travel for this.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't some other city's thing. This isn't like a Los Angeles thing. It's SELA's thing. It's cool.
Yeah, like how you said, that's not a Los Angeles thing, because it's cool. It's always cool to go into downtown and go to the little areas, but when it's like in your neighborhood, dude, I'm telling you, I'm like 4 or 5 minutes away from there, and I was like driving. I forgot a battery for this thing, the gimbal. Just drive back, and I'm already back at the festival.
Oh my god, that's bad.
Like,
that's
it's
awesome.
Convenient, fun, and accessible. Again, a lot of the times we don't have the means to take these trips all the way to North Hollywood or to just downtown. Like, you know, it's parking, traffic, all this other stuff that's just against you. And then just for it to be in your neighborhood, dude, that's special. I wish I can say the F word because it's special.
Yes, and I think that made such a huge difference in building the communities, the connections, because everyone was from there, and they all live right next to each other and didn't even know it. Like, I heard multiple people be like, I had no idea you live right here. It's like, I had no idea. Like, all this stuff. It's beautiful. It was so cool.
Yeah, and it's cool, you know, just to give a little, like, you know, some flowers to Art Space. Like, a couple months ago in November, when I first kind of met, we just found out about that area, about that space that they had built. David Hernandez from Night Flare, he had like a film festival, like a film mixer. You know, just people from Southeast LA just showing their films in the parking lot of Art Space.
So I remember that.
That was my first experience with, like, dude, this space is gonna take things further out, you know. And Fotolandia just drops on us, like, dude.
Yeah, no, I'm truly. I mean, I know I keep mentioning it, but Art Space HP has been such a huge cornerstone of everything we've built. Just Rosario has been nothing but amazing and generous, and she's built a community hub that is going to outlast all of us, I hope. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, for you, like, where do you see yourself continuing to experiment with photography? Like, is there something that kind of, like, you know, you've been trying to, like, tinker with that you haven't fully embraced yet?
Yeah, there's a lot, but mostly right now I'm terrified of taking portraits of my family. And I think that's the next step.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is there a reason, like a big reason for that?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to intimacy. You know, we didn't grow up very close, or at least not in a traditional family sense. And actually, my grandparents raised me out here in Boyle Heights, and they passed away in 2012. That's okay. In a house fire, of all things. Ooh, I know, it was pretty rough. But ever since then, we've been kind of disjointed as a family. And so I think something that really freaks me out is just being here, just one-on-one with a family member. And that's kind of weird and kind of funny, and I think it's interesting because I feel no fear photographing most people, and like, you know, celebrities and regular, like, you know, it doesn't really matter. But when it comes to my mom, I just freak out, and I'm just like, I don't know how to do it. I don't want to do it. Like,
hey man, that's raw, because, you know, that's a lot of the time, you know, you think relationships with your family, there's like all nice and tight, you know, but that's not really the case all the time. And especially to be like just real about that, you know, like, because, you know, a lot of times the people don't be like, oh, I'm scared of just like something, some I don't want to say like superficial, but you're really taking it to another part, because again, like, you feel like there's something like that's causing that hesitation on your end, and until you're able to kind of come into terms with that, then you'll be able to, like, just, you know, capture what you want.
Yeah, like, that's been my whole thing lately, is trying to break out of my comfort zone in like every sense, in every aspect of my life, because it's really been holding me back. Truly. I'm trying to grow more and more, and I just keep falling into the same cycles. And one of those cycles is, you know, being afraid of getting closer with my family, and I think I'm getting about ready to challenge that.
To challenge that.
Yeah.
You know, in a small way, I can relate to that. I had this conversation a few days ago with a personal family member, where I was like, you know what, like, I don't know what it is. I'm still trying to figure out that myself, but there is some hesitation, something that I don't feel like is fully connecting with my, like, family, I guess, too, you know? Not that we've had any big issues or anything, but I don't know. There's something that's I'm also afraid of trying to open up or trying to find out and just get to that level, you know? I've considered that sometimes, like, let me do a podcast with my mom, you know? But I'm scared of that, too. Like, I don't know what truths are going to come out. Like, I don't know where this conversation will lead. I don't even know if I'm able to have a conversation with her like that. But there's like, and I feel like I have to do something to find that connection, to connect. It's up to me to try to like also help break down those boundaries. It's very much like yourself, that you have to work towards that.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like when it is family, it doesn't have to be one big thing. It's a lifetime of things. You know?
Right.
So that makes it a lot harder and a lot scarier. But I love that. I think it's super interesting that you would be hesitant.
Yeah, no. Yeah, there's who knows what it is. That's self-work that each and every one of us have to figure out on our own. Like we all know. We may not know where it completely stems from, but I think if we dig like deep enough, we're able to kind of come to that realization of what we need to do next.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the knowing better versus doing better. Like like it's one thing, and then one thing to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then another thing to be like, okay, that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
I'll get to it.
I'll put it in the back burner.
Exactly.
For 10 more years.
Exactly. Yeah. What's the rush?
Yeah, but no, that's cool. That's thank you for sharing that. And,
absolutely.
But now, moving forward with Fotolandia, you said you guys are planning to continue doing this kind of like every year kind of thing, if it allows it. But for you personally, like what does the next event look like to you?
The next Fotolandia?
Yeah. Or your next venture to,
That's a great question. I believe for me, the next Fotolandia or next big adventure, it could look very similar. I would love to host it at an actual photo studio with multiple, like actual studios that are connected, kind of linked, because we are limited when we do it outside. We're really limited in the techniques we can show, and again, with the second the wind picks up, everything kind of has to shift, and then the models are hot. Everyone's super hot. Just all it turns into a bit of a mess. So, yeah, I would love to be able to do it somewhere where it's kind of designed for that kind of activity.
Yeah,
and also be more concise, I think, because I think the 3 days was a bit much. In retrospect, it was a bit much. So maybe just the 2 day, 1.5 day, like a party night and then like a workshop day. But definitely just a little trimmed down, a little more focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. I mean, that's how we learn that through things, Like we do it the first time, and we're like, all right, I know where to, like you kind of mentioned, like trim the fat on here, and condense it to make it an even better product.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Because I loved it, and I'm much happier having done too much than not having done enough.
Right.
Yeah. Because I think for me, that's the best way to learn.
And now, do you think the steps towards that vision that you have will be similar in terms of applying for like grants?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to apply for grants. We're going to be, what's nice this time, so what I was talking about with the PR, we waited to basically the last second. I think it was like maybe a month or two before the event that we hired the PR team. And what she kept saying was like, okay, next time hire me a little earlier, and I promise you'll get way better results. And so so having the foresight to know that we should hire a PR team and that we should do it as soon as possible, I think that would make a massive difference in not just attendance, but in like the funding and the sponsorships and like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, again, for the what you guys did as the initial idea, that was already awesome. Like, you guys like hit it out of the park with that. So people are gonna crave it. Just like the same thing. I don't know if you visited like the SELA Arts Festival last year. Like they did a festival in the riverbed.
Yeah.
Again, all those things are kind of help activate the community to know that there's creatives around us.
Yeah.
And that again, all it does is just keep building connections. Exactly. And again, like I mentioned, I showed up to Fotolandia and I already know like 10, 15 people from there. I'm like, oh, this is cool, this sick. Feels like a who's who, type of thing,
Cool, yeah. I love that, yeah. And the SELA Arts Festival down in the river, like that too, that was so inspiring for me too, because I was like, wow, like this is huge. This is special. This is awesome. And it's here in SELA. And it's you just walk right into it. And I don't know. I think that probably really inspired me.
Yeah.
For Fotolandia.
I mean, just to get a little background on yourself, I know you mentioned you didn't grow up in the Southeast LA area. What area did you reside in around here?
Yeah. So we moved around a lot, but basically my grandparents would pick me up after work, after school, and then take me to their house out here in Boyle Heights. So like half my life was kind of out here, and then the other half was literally all over. So like mostly Montebello and Pasadena, but also Glendale, Whittier, Pico, a little bit of Cudahy, but not really.
What? That's cool. Yeah.
And like Los Feliz, literally all over.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah, but yeah, right now I'm located in Glendale, which is fine.
Yeah. No, I mean it's good to that you mentioned that, because I mean you do have like a different perspective of what these different areas have in them, and available to them. People for people not familiar with the Southeast LA area, I mean a lot of the times, like the food desert.
Right.
There's more fast food restaurants than there's only one Sprouts in Cudahy.
Yeah.
Come on, there's just like liquor stores and everything. So environmentally it's been impacted by like Farmer John's around there, like just Exxon, the battery factory.
Yep.
All these things working against the people living in this region.
Yeah.
And depleted from all these resources, creative resources as well. But it just shows that there's like the resilience amongst the people, to be, what's the word? Ingenuity? Is that the word I'm looking for? Like to create out of the scarcity that they have, like just, yeah.
Yeah, no, well, and exactly, like not just that, but like that we could see that people want this, like we want more. We want the fresh food and options, just options.
We have options.
Yeah,
that's what we want.
Yeah, exactly. Like I saw that they're building another Starbucks on Florence. Right next to Art Space, actually. And I was like, okay, so we have room for another Starbucks, but not room for anything else. So, and that just tends to be the story of gentrification.
Exactly. Yeah. See, but this is a good story because this is what I want. I want to learn how to do this. I want to be able to know other people that are like craving for this information. Where, what can we do to make more of these spaces happen? Like, I know people want them, but. And I know a lot of the time maybe the stuff that's stopping us is maybe financial. A lot of the times that's what it is. I've said it myself, like, if I had this much money, I can do this. And I know I could do it good, I have that mentality sometimes, but it's like, that's not going to get me anywhere if I'm not proactively trying to do something to actually get what I need to get to where I want, So it's... We need to teach people this stuff.
And that's the thing too, is like, yes, we need to teach people this stuff because it's being kept from us because the people in charge don't want us to have this kind of stuff. It's too radical.
It's too radical.
Yeah, right? Like us depending on each other to make amazing spaces where we all feel safe and creative and don't have to spend money. Like, what? That's not what America's about. Are you kidding me?
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So we do. We have to rely on each other and we have to ask questions and we have to say uncomfortable things. And we can, and hopefully that'll lead us all to like a really great place where we can, depend on each other.
Yeah. No, I think, before we start wrapping this up, I think that's definitely a key point in all of this. We need to set, a lot of the times, I know we're going to have all our differences and we may not always kind of meet in the same level, but I think it's more for our sake and our progress to just find ways to collaborate. And while we're doing this collaboration, at the same time be involved enough where we can allow ourselves to kind of open our perspectives on things, right? Like maybe we don't have to agree, but we can come to the agreement that, look, what we're doing here is the better for our community. Let's focus on that first.
Absolutely.
And I think while we're doing that process, we ourselves start maturing. And without us knowing, we've already made this drastic change within ourselves. That's also reflecting on the stuff that we're trying to bring to the community.
That's beautiful. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for making the time to come out.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm excited for what's next. I'm gonna keep my eyes out for that, and when the moment I see it, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna do a backflip.
Yeah,
I don't know how to do a backflip,
but that's the day.
But I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. Okay. Hell yeah.
Well, with that being said, if people want to find out more information about you, about the upcoming festivals, or anything that you may be doing, where can people find you?
Yeah. So my personal Instagram is at Zamora Visuals, Zamora Visuals, and then Fotolab Workshops has its own Instagram, which would be under at Fotolab.works. And yeah, just keep an eye out for class schedules on there and tutorials, and reach out if you have any questions about photography. I love talking about it.
Awesome. Alex, thank you so much for making the time again.
Thank you.
We're going to be signing off here. You're listening to KQBH-LP, Los Angeles, California, 101.5 FM. Just finished listening to The Social Primate. We will see you guys next week, and we're going to leave you with some music off of, let me find out what this band was called. No Kids, Pets Okay, with their song When the Story Comes to an End.
Sweet.
Personally, cool song. We'll see you guys next week, and we'll see you soon.